Hello, my name is Elad Zohar with Making Space in Music, and today we'll be talking about stop time conducting. So what's stop time conducting? Basically, it's conducting that will be utilized in faster tempos. Easiest way to recognize it is anything that looks something like this. And as you can tell, with the fact that we stop at our ictus, that's where the name comes from. So in the pattern, we're basically taking advantage of the hard beats in a bar. So the hard beats are basically any beat within a bar that is very obviously rhythmically important. In a 4/4 bar, it's 1 and 3. 1 being the most important, 3 being the second most important, and 2 and 4 being less important as the up beats in the feel of a fast tempo. In 3/4, it would just be 1, with 2 and 3 being softer beats, and in 2/4, it would obviously just be 1. So now traditionally when working in a 4/4 pattern in stop time, rather than going outward like we would in a 3/4 and 2/4 with a focal point, we'd actually draw our arrow inwards. It'll look kind of like a very square W, but generally speaking, when we come down, we'll come down to that original focal point, stop, come up on 2, inward, and then out on 3, hitting the focal point, and then coming back up. So this should theoretically be intuitive considering our focal point 4/4 pattern that we did in the previous video. The reason for that is because theoretically we could be doing our 1 beat, rebounding, 2 comes in, 3 comes out, and 4 comes up, but we're basically just taking out 2 of those rebounds and instead doing a full stop. And so again, it'll look something like this, where we go 1, 2 rebounds up, 3 hits, and 4 rebounds up. Now something important to recognize about the timing of this, and something that is discussed amongst the conducting community, is where the actual beat happens. Now in my opinion, and that of the Making Space conducting team, the beat happens for beats 1 and 3 when you hit the focal point, and for 2 and 4 when you leave it. So again, it would look like this. 1 happens at the ictus, 2 happens as you leave, 3 happens as you hit, and 4 happens as you leave. Now, the other option would be to put the beat where you hit here, hit at the focal point again for 3, and then get to the top on 4. The reason I think that that's incorrect is because the beat should be interpreted at the ictus each time. Now, the musicians technically wouldn't be able to interpret the initiation of something, but with the fact that 1 and 3 are our heartbeats, 2 and 4 should technically be anticipated. So now we've talked about 4/4 in our stop time pattern, let's talk about 3/4. 3/4 is going to utilize a triangular shape, which is a completely different shape from anything that we've done so far. It'll look like this. And basically what we're doing is we're going straight down, sliding across, and then drawing a straight line up to the top. Something that a lot of beginners will make the mistake in practicing this pattern is either coming down, sliding down at an angle, and then coming up, or sliding across and then scooping up. We want to make sure that all of these pathways are nice and straight and the shape is very angular, which will make reading the pattern a lot easier for the musicians on the field. So one more important detail to recognize in our 3/4 pattern is to recognize that our ictus actually moves slightly inward, and this is partially to actually make it easier to differentiate 4/4 from 3/4, especially if you're dealing with multimeter at any point in your conducting career. But at the very least, what that does is gives you the space to slide across and not make it look awkward. Whereas if you were to stay out here and slide all the way out for beat 2 to make it distinguishable, your hands would be very, very far apart, which would be a much more awkward conducting pattern than if your hands were to be a little closer and then slide out to wherever your traditional ictus would be sitting. Now we've got our 4/4 pattern, our 3/4 pattern. Let's talk about 2/4. 2/4, very straightforward. Let's go ahead and keep our hands in the same ictus position they'd be for a 4/4 pattern, and we're just gonna come up and come down, come up, come down. We're stopping on our beat 1s, just like we would for 4/4 pattern, but rather than coming in every other beat, we're just gonna come right back up. So we have our 1, 2, 1, 2. And again, 2 would actually be initiated as we come up. So now we've touched on 4/4, 3/4, and 2/4. Let's go ahead and cover just how we transition between all 3 of those patterns in the case that we're dealing with multimeters or changing meters at any point. So basically, when you're changing your pattern, to really make it clear that we're changing, we'll actually make the last beat of the previous pattern prep for this new pattern. So if I'm going from 4/4 to 3/4, rather than going 1, 2, 3, 4 up here, and then coming down for 1 and the 3/4 closer together, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll prep beat 4 in the center so that we can come straight down for the 3/4. Now that's going to both indicate that we're changing meter to the musicians, but also it's going to make it look a lot better to go straight down for your downbeat than it would to come down at an angle. So if we're going from 4/4 to 3/4, it would look something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now, if we're transitioning from 3/4 back to 4/4, or even 3/4 to 2/4, we'll have to bring our prep beat, or rather the third beat of that 3/4 bar, back out. So it would look something like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now a simple exercise you can do is to just practice a 7 pattern, or 4 versus 3. The 3 to 2 or 2 to 3 is essentially the same thing and is still something that I recommend you practice, but for the sake of having a little more time to think about where your prep happens, 4 versus 3 is a great place to start. So we're gonna go ahead and practice this together, and I'll have a metronome on at about 140 beats per minute, and we're just gonna go ahead and practice going from 4/4 to 3/4. We'll do 4 reps of this, and we'll move on. Here we go, 5 and 6, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, and 4, 1, 2, 3. Nice. I know that was pretty quick, and something that, again, I'd recommend you put a metronome on, and if that still feels like a fast tempo, feel free to run that at 100 beats per minute, but it's something to practice, something to do at home. So there we go. If that felt quick, make sure that you go ahead and put a metronome on at home and practice that on your own a few more times. It's something that you can also do at a slower tempo if it still feels very, very fast, to figure out the transitions. There's no shame in running that at about 100 beats per minute as well, just to make sure that the way that you conduct that pattern is very, very clean. It's important to note that it's not helpful at all to rush the process of figuring out mechanics. When we're going through our conducting and understanding the fundamentals of standing tall, fundamentals of how we set our arms, and all of these little minute details in the way that we look when we conduct, it's important to spend time, to take our time with this process. So if this felt very easy to you, there's an exercise video later in the series that you're welcome to check out that basically takes advantage of as many different changes as possible from different meters. It's called Countdown, and it essentially takes advantage of going from a phrase of 8 to 7 to 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then back up to 8. This will cover a lot of different changes from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. So it's a very, very difficult exercise for somebody who's just starting out, but it is a good challenge to eventually get yourself into. And with that said, my name is Elad Zohar with Making Space in Music, and I'll see you next time.